Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play cast brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka Magicman, and this is episode 275, recorded on September 6th. You're watching it on the 7th or later, and holy balls do we have a show for you today. And I backed up from the mic a little bit, apologize if it was a little loud, but all right, so normally we do, well, you know what, let's introduce the host first. We're just going to get right to it. Jason, how are you?
Yeah, normally I've got like a tab open in my browser for each little bit of news we're going to talk about. This time, I'm just like, I can't keep track of it all. There's just too much. I can't load that many tabs.
Nope, you have a memory leak and your computer would crash. Also on the line, Q, how are you?
How can you not have all the tabs open when I do?
Oh.
Because I'm lazy and I just made an excuse.
Because he's doing the free-to-play cast on a potato.
Look, I just did a first look like 5 minutes ago. Give me a break. I'm not... Brain's still thinking about Battle Royale.
That'll be posted up this weekend, by the way, if you want to look for that. It's been busy first looks. I like when we have this. I did two, Troy did one, Jason did one. We got a couple more coming, so check it out. Troy's Space Lords went up. It was on the show notes for today. I doubt we're going to get to it. So let me just say out front, if we don't get to give our opinions about Space Lords, yeah, go watch the first look, and if you like what you see in the first look, you'll probably enjoy it. There's a little bit different in there as far as game modes and the type of game that it is, but not incredibly mind-blowingly new or anything. And if you were interested in Raiders of the Broken Planet but didn't want to shell out money, now you can play it for free, so that's kind of a win-win there too. Q, you wanted to say something about Space Lords?
Yeah. I just want to say, has anybody else gotten that Monster Magnet song stuck in their head since they've heard that title?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But we probably won't get to it, so I just wanted to put it there because we got a lot of news, so let's get started. So normally, the way the show notes work is we pick 2 or 3 topics that are pretty big that we can talk about, that we can give our opinions on, that there may be some controversy in, you know, something interesting to spice up the show. And on those weeks, when there really isn't anything meaty like that, we kind of do what we've been calling the rapid fire round, where we take a bunch of smaller news points, things that are interesting, but really not 15, 20 minutes worth of discussion interesting, and we just kind of put them all together, give some quick opinions, and run through it, all those items with all the hosts. So today we've got a rapid fire round for you again, but it's huge. It's mega. These are all big stories. Probably why we won't get to the first look review for Space Lords, and I think we would be remiss, gang, if we did not start with the one that broke literally minutes before we were set to record. Finally, something breaks before we record, and not an hour after.
You know something's breaking right now.
Right? Something even bigger. I don't. Destiny 2 goes free to play. It's gonna happen after we hit that we're not recording anymore.
EA bought Blizzard.
Right. All right. Predictions coming true. That we won't mention how wrong they were for 2 years prior, but that's fine. They are now coming true. Sadly, NCSoft had to officially confirm today after it was kind of leaked from a meeting, from somebody at the meeting to Kotaku. Credit to Jason Schreier over at Kotaku. Wildstar will be no more, as Carbine will be shutting down and taking Wildstar with it. The official announcement: today we are closing Carbine Studios and will begin the process of winding Wildstar down to ultimately shutter the game. Wildstar players who have spent money within the game will be refunded purchases from July 1st, 2018, so that's quite a bit retroactive. I mean, that's 3 months ago at this point.
2
Until
months,
the...
whatever.
Yeah, 2 months. You're right. Sorry. Until the payment system is shut off. We are also in the process of identifying the teams that will be doing the work to bring Wildstar to a close. These decisions are very difficult to make, and we are in the midst of shifting as many of our teammates as possible into other roles within the organization. That estimated number of people impacted by Carbine being shut down is estimated right now to be about 50. of course, our condolences and hopes that all of those employees impacted by this do land on their feet. And if you know a job, make sure you throw it out there on Twitter that some of these people would be qualified to take. Jason, overall thoughts before we get to a couple questions that I think in my brain the statement brought up.
Well, I mean, we've been saying it at the start of the year, and we noticed that they had like no real events planned. Yeah, and obviously, like you said, we've been going on for like years and years. Oh, it's going to shut down.
Right, but even Pappy's letter at the beginning of the year really only alluded to in-game events that people liked. They'll be coming back. That was it.
That's the point of it. It's like even in previous years, they've done updates. They've done some new content. Not major stuff maybe, but sometimes occasionally pretty good stuff. As long as that's going on, you figure you're still in pretty good shape. But when they didn't even say they're going to be anything new this year, and I don't follow the game that closely. Maybe they did tweak something or actually change content, but for the most part, looking over their feed, it's like this is back, this item is back, this event is back. I mean, it looks like they didn't do anything new this year that I can really tell. So, yeah, I mean, if it was going to happen any time, it was probably going to be this year because they seem to have pretty much shut down any like active development for a while now, to the point that we were surprised they had 50 people left.
Yeah, and we were just talking, not even jokingly, like, oh, haha. It was, wow, I'm honestly surprised that the number was that big. I know, obviously, that most teams on MMOs would be that team size or bigger, but since there was no active development going on, Q, I was surprised that the number was still 50.
Yeah, it kind of doesn't make sense unless they were going to try to do something to have that many people just kind of hanging out. I mean, I guess they were doing maintenance and that kind of stuff or whatever, but I mean, if they're not making new content, there's a whole bunch of people there, the artists and all of that kind of have nothing to do.
Here's what some of the things that I found very weird about the announcement. First off, I don't think anybody was surprised. I don't even think the Wildstar diehard loyal were surprised. Maybe they're surprised by that they didn't get to ride out the year, but I don't think ultimately even the Wildstar rabid fans are all that surprised. I've read the forums. I've read them recently because I do follow the game, even if I don't play it as much as I would have liked to, and now won't get the chance to. But I don't think anybody is surprised that Wildstar itself is going away. I do think the more surprising part of this is that Carbine is going away too, and not surprising in the respect that they don't have any active projects that we were aware of that would keep them afloat, but this seemed very, very quick, bang, bang. The staff found out at a closed meeting today. And today, they're closing Carbine Studios. There was no, so fast, Jason, that they have to say, we're still trying to identify who the team's gonna be that actually winds the game down. Like, they didn't keep anybody. They just don't show up tomorrow, gang. And again, maybe I'm misinterpreting, but that's the impression I get from this announcement. They learned about it this morning. It starts off with, today we're closing, and they don't know what team they're going to have close it down. That seems really, really just trigger happy. Okay, today, pull the trigger, boop, we're done.
Yeah, it's like, how do you even maintain, keep servers running or, do anything at all, like customer service or any like that? You have to have, unless this being NCSoft, they can transfer a lot of the maintenance kind of stuff over to their people. This is not to be active
over to a
development
generic tech team.
Yeah, tech team, customer service, that sort of thing. So, I mean, if they're not doing anything specific to Wildstar, maybe that works. Maybe that's from the NCSoft or NCSoft West, whatever their American branch is. Maybe they can handle that.
Wow. Just kind of wow. Just
that said, if you were an employee of Carbine and you didn't have resumes out, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, the writing has been on the wall for a while, but still, you would have at least expected some type of, hey, we're going to shut the game down in 2 months. We're going to start winding down operations. Here's how we're going to do it. And at that point, the studio will close. It just seemed really quick. Hey, shut down the studio. We're going to transfer anything to, not a development team, but an internal team to wind things down. We'll figure all that out. We don't have a plan for that yet, but we want this studio shut down now. I mean, that seems, wow. Cute. It does just. Am I the only one that thinks that's a little odd?
It's a little abrupt. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of, I mean, unless, the studios, like the entire company just implodes or something. Like in those cases, but I don't think I've ever heard of a case where they're like, we're going to shut just this sub studio down today and everyth's an end and we'll just figure out what to do with you guys as we go along. Like, normally they're like, okay, we'll give you at least a little bit of padding here, so you let you know in advance that this thing is going to happen on this date, so that you guys can go ahead and figure out what the hell you're going to do. But
yeah. We're going to talk about another company that imploded a little later on. So there's that too. Hey, so maybe it was a money thing. Maybe they just said, you guys are spending enough money, too much money.
Yeah, but why'd they keep on 50 people not doing anything if they for what, a year at least? They haven't put out any new content in almost a year. So they kept on 50 people that they've been paying to be there to do nothing. Like I said, I could see keeping on like the server people and stuff like that. Like, okay, you guys got to run this stuff so people could play. But obviously they didn't need artists. They didn't need people to do. Well, they basically probably didn't need the creatives because nobody was making anything new. So why were those, if that's included in the 50 people, why are they still there? Like, why didn't they let them go a long time ago and let them get jobs? Well,
you don't let them go and try to say you're keeping the game going because people will realize that it's...
Yeah,
maybe they were just going in and collecting a paycheck. Maybe that was it, just to keep up the illusion that something was going on.
And they finally just decided they can't pay people to do nothing anymore, which makes no sense. I mean, it makes no sense to do it that way.
So, I'm trying to think back. Now, I know when City of Heroes closed, that NCSoft, did announce that the game would roll down over a period of time. It wasn't just, kind of like this. It wasn't shut down immediately. They announced it, and then I think a few months later it shut down. But what I'm trying to remember, and maybe one of you can find it, is I seem to remember that Paragon went this way too. And I could be mistaken, but that it was... We're
Paragon Studios.
Right, Paragon Studios. We're shutting down Paragon Studios. P.S. The game that they're working on is going to shutter a few months from now. And I can't remember if it was as bang as this one seems, but I do seem to remember that articles at that time, I think we were all at Gamebreaker at that time, that were people at Paragon Studios were just as surprised as a lot of fans were. So
here is apparently the release from them. It said NCSoft has made the decision to close Paragon Studios. Effective immediately, all development on City of Heroes will cease. We'll begin preparations to sunset the worlds for blah, blah, blah. So yeah, kind of like what you were talking about.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, maybe that's just the way NCSoft
here we go. I got one from GameSpot. City of Heroes developer Paragon Studios is being closed by NCSoft, and this was on September 4th, well, that was the last update, September 4th. I think it was the end of August when this
August 31st
happened.
is what my source says.
There we go. Paragon Studios is being closed by NCSoft, and its superhero massively multiplayer online role-playing game is set to go offline by November 30th. The studio's roughly 80 employees have been laid off. So, same type of deal, just swoop in, shut down the studio, and we'll worry about shutting down the game with our internal teams later. Again, I'm not nearly as surprised at Wildstar as I was with City of Heroes.
Yeah, were they still doing stuff with City of Heroes though during that time?
Yes. Yeah, there
like
were
they were still putting out doing stuff that made it actually seem like the game might continue, whereas Wildstar, it's more like we've just been sitting here going, okay, well, there's nothing going on, so when are they going to drop the hammer?
It should be noted, too, looking at my spreadsheet. Of course, they used to do on the NCSoft financial reports, they used to have Wildstar on there, and then they didn't after a while.
Right.
They did the same thing with City of Heroes, and did the same thing with Tabula Rasa, back when that was a thing. So
yeah, I think Tabula Rasa's in its own category.
Sure.
But
if you get booted off the financial report, you could be in trouble. Now, that said, Guild Wars 1 has been on there for like 6 years, or been there without its own entry for about 6 years. So
Well, and Carbine and Wildstar hasn't been by itself on the report for a long time now. So
it's only about 2 years.
Only it only released in 2014.
Q3 2016 was the last time it was on the sheet by itself. So.
Right, so it lasted 2 years on the sheets and then 2 years off the sheets.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this before we move on to the next topic. What does this mean? And I know that it's a long time coming and stuff like that. What does this mean as far as these bigger MMORPG projects, particularly of a Western bent or a Western development team? And I should put the caveat on it of with unknown IPs or new IPs. Is this the last we're going to see? Those big AAA projects that don't have Star Wars or Final Fantasy or something, some big IP behind it from Western audience or from Western development houses?
Again, are we foreshadowing a future thing we're going to talk about today? But,
Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I think... I don't think it's...
It's called building a segue, Jason. Stick with me.
I don't think it's changing anything. I think we've always felt like that's been the case now for a while. I mean, I think you also just don't hire stupid people to do it. You know, that's or whatever kind of idiocy they had. Because there's been all sorts of stories written about the dumb decisions they made for.
And we talked about them a week or two ago.
Yeah. So I mean, you can to some degree. I think it still could be done, but you need a really head-on team and a really good management that would actually trust them to the point. You trust them to the point to let them do their own thing, but not so much you let them do anything. I don't know how else to say that.
I don't think we see it again.
You need a little oversight.
A little, but not too much. You need the perfect amount, which again might never happen. Yeah.
You need a sprinkle, a dash of oversight, if you will. A dash of oversight. Q, I think that's it. I don't think we're going to see any big... Obviously, we'll see smaller projects and things like that, but I think as far as big MMORPG, AAA type stuff with the big budgets... I think as far as Western, we're always going to see it out of the Eastern audiences and the Eastern development houses. As generic as they may or may not be, totally separate topic. I think we'll continue to see those. But as far as, you know, your Guild Wars 2s, your Final Fantasy 14, I know that's technically an Eastern developer, but whatever, and your Wildstars, I think that's it. I think if you don't have Star Wars, if you don't have Final Fantasy, if you don't have Warcraft, if you don't have Diablo, if you don't have any of those names behind it, I don't think you're going to see it anymore out of Western developers.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been saying this for a long time anyway, and I think it's like, you know, there's some games that I've seen developed with the idea that they only have like their max number of required players for them to keep the game alive is like 250,000 or something. Like, you know, some games are angling for a smaller audience, and it lets you do. Like, if you do that, you don't have to try to be World of Warcraft or something where you're trying to appeal to the tastes of millions of different people.
Right.
You just go for that smaller, and it allows you to do, to please an audience for a smaller amount of money. You don't need as big of an audience. So, I mean, I don't really think that it's necessarily a bad, as long as you don't, like launch with a gajillion servers and stuff like that. You just go, this is how many players we need, this is what we're angling for. You let everybody know up front, hey, this game is super hardcore, this game is all about this, or whatever it is, and you don't try to appeal to the complete gamer audience. And I mean, because now you have, I mean, and obviously MMOs just take up so much time, an exhausting amount of time, that if you're not really into it, the things like the MOBAs and the battle royales and stuff like that, they're just so much more appealing for people who enjoy competitive stuff, obviously. But they're more appealing in the sense that the investment that is just not that much, and that's kind of the way it's going to go. I think from here on out, people just don't have those hours and hours and hours to spend on something that they don't really like.
Well, and I kind of look at it as, Jason, right now, everything from here on out is just going to be a battle royale, so it's not needed. Let's go to the next story, which... oh, by the way, I've seen some people getting really nasty on forums and sites at NCSoft. And while I could kind of see that with City of Heroes, I don't get it for this one. I'm never going to trust them again. This game probably ran for about a year longer than it rightfully should have, and I, being a Wildstar fan, can acknowledge that. So, while it always sucks to have your favorite game shut down, and there is a small group of people that Wildstar was their favorite game, that's fine, I can understand being upset. I don't really feel like comparing this to City of Heroes as a betrayal on the part of NCSoft is accurate.
No.
I mean, they're companies, so, I mean, I expect them to do what's best for their bottom line before I expect them to worry about whether or not they betrayed me as player. I don't expect loyalty from a company.
They're going to lose all 6 of those Wildstar customers for life.
It is nice of them to go back all the way to July and give refunds, although that kind of makes me wonder why my Facebook has been inundated for the last 2 months with Wildstar trying to sell me stuff that was in the shop. But whatever. Moving on. So you want to know why you can't play Fortnite on, both the PlayStation and the Switch, or move your stuff to another account? That's because Sony CEO Kenichiro Yoshida said one of the dumbest things I think I've ever read when it comes to this type of topic. The quote being, on cross-platform, our way of thinking is always that PlayStation is the best place to play. Fortnite, I believe, partnered with PlayStation 4, is the best experience for our users. That's our belief. This is so stupid, Q.
So, but okay, but your players are going to be playing on PlayStation. I realize there's some, adjustments or whatever that need to be made to make it cross-platform compatible and all that.
It's like a switch they got to switch they got to flip.
Right. But the thing about it is every other platform offers as a feature the ability to play with your friends on all the other platforms. And you're sitting here going, no, we're not going to offer this really important feature that literally everybody else offers.
So dumb. So dumb. So dumb. Like, I understand you're going to E3, right, Jason? And you're like, hey, we believe PlayStation 4 is the definitive console on the market. And you start giving the tech specs and compare it to what you and your competitors are doing and why yours is better and stuff like that. In that context, I don't have anything wrong. I don't have any gripe with this kind of quote. I don't. If you think you have the best product on the market and you're trying to sell it, it's perfectly natural to say, hey, I believe that this is the best thing on the market, and therefore, why would you want to play anything else? When it is in response to being told, why can't I play a game on multiple systems if I happen to have that game for multiple systems without having to create 2 damn accounts with a company that isn't you, PlayStation? I'm not asking to be able to play something with my PlayStation account on an Xbox, on a Switch, on the PC. I want to play with my freaking Epic Fortnite account on whatever I want to play with. This was not your account to begin with. This is really stupid. We believe that our product partnered with Fortnite is so vastly superior, we're going to force you to use it. Come on!
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to try that line of reasoning with Bethesda for Fallout. Yeah. They've been talking about, Fallout 76. Yeah. That's not going to work.
There's not much to say on that, but we needed to point out that was a stupid quote and a stupid thing to say. Speaking of stupid, what the hell? Put the wrong link in here?
Yeah, I think you did. So I just tried to pull it up myself.
All right. So, yeah, I did. I guess that must be the old one? That's weird, because I just did these notes this morning.
Yeah, Q said you pulled everything up.
I pulled everything up.
I just clicked it on the web page.
Yeah, I just clicked on the web page and it's gone, too.
And I'm getting a 404.
You must have deleted the wrong thing when we had to make the changes yesterday.
No,
I've got it. I've got it sitting right here. It was here this morning.
Yeah, this is weird.
So the website did something weird between when I pulled, or well, not even.
I didn't do it.
It was after I finished writing everything but the last thing that I put in. So a couple of hours ago.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at this. Published. All good. Let me take a look at the link. News, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all good. All right. You go to the front end of the website. There it is. I mean, I can see it. I can see it.
You can't view it though.
Click it, and okay, now it came up. So maybe there was just a database issue. Anyway, so speaking of stupid, yeah, apparently Daybreak. Here we go again. Really might not be as big a deal when it comes to H1Z1 as we thought, or we're being led to believe, Jason.
Well, I still can't pull up the article, but I'll go from memory. Yeah, so they have their H1Z1 Pro League, which is, esports, because everyone's got to be an esport nowadays. And apparently they're having some issues with paying the teams for what they're contractually obligated to do. Yeah, because this never comes up in esports. No, never at all. But yeah, usually it comes from little, run-of-the-mill organizations that are, tiny little outfits that are just trying to screw over their players, which you wouldn't expect from a decently sized company and at least still moderately in some way kind of sort of almost respectable like Daybreak. But yeah, they are having issues with getting payments to their players for various reasons that I'm sure we'll go into in a moment. But it all boils down to not communicating with the teams, making it difficult. Sometimes even the foreign players are having trouble getting their visas and being able to stay in the country. And they were actually apparently told the teams that communicated with Daybreak were told not to pay some of their people because they couldn't do it at this time. So
what a mess. And on the flip side of this, numbers look to have been skewed as far as viewership of these types of things. But Daybreak not paying the employees or the players, but also allegedly being accused of paying attendees to boost numbers at events. Just really bizarre. And this all comes from VP Esports. And we found it on Massively Opinionated. We did not originally find it on VP Esports, so credit to Massively Opinionated here on this one. And their note about watching events says, routinely shown to have anywhere between 2,000 and 12,000 concurrent viewers. The chat on Facebook, allegedly, was largely dominated by bots attempting to obtain skin codes. All this seems to fly in the face of claims by Twin Galaxies and Caesars that the H1PL was earnestly viewed over 20 million times, because the act of simply scrolling past the video in a Facebook feed registered as a view. Here's the part where this gets weird. All right, so you might say they're in financial distress, right? They can't pay people. They're in financial distress. We're not surprised. They canceled this, they did this. They're in financial distress. There was a little bit of an explanation given to the leagues by Jace Hall, who is, the new lead on H1Z1, also co-chair of Twin Galaxies, who told the teams that there was a force majeure at Daybreak Game Company that he was unable to discuss in detail due to a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. Now, let's just skip for a minute that under the contract with the league, if there happened to be a force majeure, which we'll talk about in a moment because it is a legal contractual term, that it had to be disclosed, and Jace or Daybreak have not to date, at least as far as this recording, disclosed that to the league. Weird, right? What this means is it's basically an unforeseen circumstance. Think of it as your insurance policy, Q, says acts of God, right? And that has a legal definition. Acts of God are covered under this or not covered under this. In contract speak, force majeure is some unforeseen, hugely impacting circumstance that would basically prevent one or both parties from fulfilling the terms of the contract for one reason or another. It's easy to look at this, Jason, and go, oh, they can't pay people, so there must be a big impact to their money that makes them unable to do this. And immediately, Q, I think everybody who has heard about Daybreak, whether they believe the whole Columbus Nova, Jason Epstein stuff or not, immediately thought, I wonder if the two were related. I don't think that's far-fetched for people to have jumped to, Q.
No, I mean, especially because with everything being so iffy with Daybreak and all the waffling on what was going on there and everything else, I mean, And that's the only big thing, really, that we know of that's happened, right? Like, I can't think of anything else that's happened recently with Daybreak that we'll all sit there and go, that might affect their finances.
Well, I have a theory, and it's one that I shared with Jason afterwards, after we looked at the piece, which I'll bring up in a second. But I don't think, and here's the thing, I'm gonna divulge a little background, or a little back behind the scenes information. I was contacted by somebody that was unhappy with this piece, that we put this up. They were specifically unhappy that we used the terms, what was it, Jason? Major legal issue.
Legal issues.
Major legal issue was one of the specific things that they were unhappy with. That wasn't our term. That is an English version of force majeure, a major legal issue with your contract. That was said by Jace Hall to the leagues. We didn't make it up. That was said by your lead to the leagues, who, by the way, didn't disclose this stuff. So it's very weird, just as weird. And it seems like, Jason, another situation, just like the Columbus Nova stuff, that if things are as Daybreak says they are, these should be relatively easy and quick things to prove and be done with. Oh, Columbus Nova didn't buy you, Jason Epstein did? Can we see some documents showing that it was a private purchase then? And P.S., why did you lie to us, realizing that, the figureheads may have changed since then? Why did you lie to us back when you were bought? That seems silly. That was never provided then. Here, okay, force majeure, you're citing your contract. You should be able to disclose what's going on there, regardless of an NDA, if you're going to use it to claim that a contract can't be fulfilled. It's just very, very weird, Jason.
Yeah, especially when you toss in the thing about the views on Facebook, 2 to 12,000 versus 20 million.
Oh, by the way, the PvE version, the original version going away.
Right. Well, that happened. Yeah, that happens. But whatever. But in general, it all makes Daybreak really unreliable for information at this point.
And it sucks, right? Because some of these people, I don't think, my contacts at Daybreak, I don't think they're lying to me. I don't think them as individuals are lying to me. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I haven't caught any of them in a lie. But I don't believe in my heart of hearts that they are lying to me. But I also don't believe that they're being told the truth, Jason.
No, I definitely think that. And I think if you are, then you would be possibly like Laura Navio, who resigned the day after all that initial Columbus Nova stuff happened, which was just a coincidence, they told us. She was just planning to anyway, but yeah, okay, whatever. I think if you are in that situation, either you got to do something about it, or from a personal or from a business standpoint. But even then, like I said, it's going to be hard for us. Anytime if they want to put forth some other thing, next thing that says, hey, we had 500,000 people play the new EverQuest expansion, and be like, yeah, did you really? Or were they just people who
I want a list of names.
Yeah, exactly. The next infographic they do, I want to see documentation for that.
A list of names. So I'm going to tell you my theory. Could it be Columbus Nova and stuff like that? And sure, sure, why not? I think it's something else. I personally think that, depending on who, this might be a good thing, might be a bad thing. I think it's going to depend on one key factor here. My gut feeling, this company is, and this was a rumor back then during the Columbus Nova stuff, which they denied as well, and we reported on anyway, this is going around. We're hearing it from sources. No. I think the company is finally not only for sale, but really close to closing a deal. To me, that makes sense on not being able to pay or fulfill contracts and being under an NDA. Because that would, and I don't want to say freeze because that's not the term for it, but that would restrict any contracts from being fulfilled financially while the organization was bought by somebody. So I have a feeling that they're being purchased. Those rumors a few months ago that they denied, when this Columbus Nova stuff, are you shopping for a buyer? And they said, no. I think they were. I thought they were then. I think that deal's close to being done. Do I have any guesses as to who? Well, I didn't until earlier this morning. based on some news we're going to talk about. But on that concept, am I crazy? What do you guys think? Q?
I don't think they've got IPs that are, somewhat valuable. Some are, but they've got IPs that could easily be used to, and make the right company money. So, I think that's probably as good a theory as anything else, including the Columbus Nova thing. And I don't know, maybe they're just being bought to get out from under the Columbus Nova thing at this point. So,
well, here's the thing too, though, Jason. I'm more inclined to believe what they had to say about Columbus Nova if they are bought, particularly if they're bought by a Western company, because I have to believe that company did some big-ass due diligence before they bought this. You know what I mean? Now, Tencent, maybe, who knows? An overseas company, I don't know. But if we see a big Western name buy this up, I tend to believe that at least on paper, they were able to circumscribe the whole Columbus Nova thing, whether they were entirely honest with it or not.
I would hope so, but then again, we even have cases of like when the original thing came out, someone as high up as John Smedley said, "I had no idea. I thought we were bought by Columbus Nova."
Right.
So I mean,
right.
maybe they could hide that sort of thing, or somehow at least obscure it to the point that they could make it seem legitimate enough. Or the thing I have an issue with too is it's like, okay. Force majeure is supposed to be an unforeseen circumstance. Like you said, act of God.
Right. You saw this coming. You knew.
Yeah, exactly. This is not making a sale. Selling yourself is not some act of God or unforeseen thing. It'd be like if the NFL were being purchased, if they're in the process of that, well, we can't pay the players for a while. Sorry.
Right.
It's like, no, you still pay the people who are actually doing this thing for you. That we can't pay our employees or whatever. That wouldn't work. So I still think they're being kind of jerks about the whole thing. And
it actually seems to me too that if they were being bought out, the one thing that the purchasing company would want to happen is for there to not be any outstanding debts upon this purchase, and
or bad press, you would think,
or bad press, but outstanding debt.
If
you're buying something from somebody, do you want to roll in and owe the stuff, like stuff that they should have paid off?
Yeah, and I have no idea. It's not like I've got a memo on my desk I just can't talk about or anything. It's a gut feeling of mine. I shared it with people that work for Daybreak. They would not comment one way or another. They don't comment on rumors, stuff like that. So it was all fairly typical from that front. It's just a hunch of mine that I thought back then, and I really, really think now. And we'll just have to keep our eyes peeled to see what happens. Speaking of that, I don't think it's Tencent. If Daybreak got bought, I don't think it's Tencent. Tencent, to me, really doesn't care about being involved in development, and they just want pieces of pies that are already profitable and they can amp up and make better. Daybreak ain't that. So I don't think Tencent's in the picture here.
They might be bought for 10 cents.
Ooh.
Tencent. The other reason Tencent gets involved is if it's a game they want to bring over to China, and they facilitate.
Right.
They facilitate
the legal
that
stuff.
process. Right, and the whole don't put skeletons in your game, don't do this because it's seen as whatever. That's what they did with Smite. Is they came in and said you have to change a bunch of this stuff because visually it's not allowed. So that's the other reason they get involved with Western companies.
So we'll see. That is just my personal speculation on Daybreak. We'll see if that's a prediction sure to go wrong on a future episode. Speaking of buyouts, except this one isn't a prediction, it actually happened. CCP, the makers of EVE Online, has been sold, and holy hell, I would never have guessed the buyer. I just never would have guessed the buyer. Pearl Abyss, the people behind Black Desert Online, the cheapest not free-to-play MMO on the market right now. I've seen that on sale for like $4 at times, I think, but whatever. So Hilmar Peterson from the CCP CEO announced today on the EVE Online blog the company's sale to Pearl Abyss. Both teams were thrilled. They're both going to partner on stuff and take each other's experience and use it in all this way, and that was basically it. We don't have any details on if this means any changes for EVE or projects that CCP already had in the works, but CCP, now owned by Pearl Abyss. Q, as an EVE fan, you were a little surprised by this one too.
Yeah, but part of it comes down to the fact that we all forget that CCP was never actually owned by CCP.
Yeah, right.
Like, even like back in its board game days, it had like two or three major companies. It ended up being 3 in the end, but like that's where all their financing and everything came from, was these investors who were like regular corporate people, not related to video games and stuff at all. That's where everything came from. So when you're like, oh, CCP kids, that's a surprise. It's because in your head you're thinking CCP is an independent company. Like,
Right.
It's weird that CCP is bought by anybody, because they just belong to the. Oh wait, no, they don't. So, I mean, I think it's one of those things that could be worse news. Like, I don't think it's going to affect EVE at all. Justin and I were actually talking about it, and he's like, I don't think Pearl Abyss is even going to touch EVE. They're just going to let it roll on and do EVE things. Because if you start dinking around with EVE, you just lose those people that are so attached to it really fast. But CCP is... there was a report a while back that they're making like a new action MMO, and supposedly it's going to be an Unreal Engine 4. And
I think Pearl Abyss is going to get involved on that.
Yeah, from the way the thing the letter was pretty much written out, it's, we're going to do our own stuff on EVE, but everything else, like, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff we're going to collaborate on and put our heads together. So I guess that's where that's going.
And to be clear, we believe that this is something different from Project Nova, which is the DUS 514 future replacement as well. So a lot of projects in the works there. I didn't see this one coming. I was even more surprised by who bought it. We'll have to watch this one, Jason, but I already see the rumblings of people not happy with Pearl Abyss being the buyer here, and I don't get this one because, and maybe there's just, I'm not a huge BDO player, and I know there has been a few scrapes with PR here and there and performance of the game. I know that was a big one for a while, but generally I don't think of Pearl Abyss positively or negatively when I think about them. This is just kind of, you know what? I didn't even know they made enough money to do that.
Yeah, the part of the price was $425 million, which to me was like, really? CCP is worth that much?
Wow.
But yeah, time for loot boxes in EVE now, right?
Oh, God.
Yeah, no, okay. But yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I think EVE fans would have been upset about anything changing in their game.
Fair enough. We're talking about a game that's established.
Oh, yeah, it's very established.
It's older than WoW.
Yeah, for sure. Older than WoW, has a sub and still going, which is like a unicorn. So, but yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Q, and I don't think there are going to be major changes to EVE. But just the hint, what it does now is it opens up anything that happens now in EVE that people don't like. Pearl Abyss's fault automatically. The same way when I said this when Columbus Nova bought SOE, whatever. Everything that went wrong from then forth was Columbus Nova's fault. Everything. So it's always going to be the big bad core. It's NCSoft's fault Carbine is shutting down. I've heard people talk about that with Guild Wars 2. Anytime something bad happens in Guild Wars 2, it's NCSoft's fault. So there's always going to be that now.
Everything is always EA's fault.
Yeah, exactly. Activision's fault. So yeah, I mean, it probably won't change any dramatic amount or to any amount that we can see, but it's not going to be perceived that way, especially when you look, like I said, you talked about some of the things with Black Desert, the loot boxes, the performance. Yeah, people have issues there too. So if any of that even seems to bleed over into EVE, it's going to be it's going to make the big Reddit threads.
It'll be interesting to watch. Last thing on buying, God, you're either closing or you're being bought today. This one, another one. Holy shit! I don't
That's what
believe
we're
this
talking
just
about for
happened.
years.
Yeah, THQ Nordic acquired a company that you'd be forgiven if you didn't know they still existed. THQ Nordic acquired 38 Studios old IPs, including Amalur and the Project Copernicus MMO stuff. Now, Kingdoms of Amalur, I thought it was a really good game. I enjoyed it. A little generic, sure, but I really enjoyed it, but it didn't sell 7 bajillion copies. It only sold 2. And
1.2 million. That's
right.
what Kurt Schilling himself said. Yeah.
Yeah, so the expectations that 38 Studios had on this one, I think that's your own fault. But the game, as Jason pointed out in his article, still has an 87% positive rating on Steam. So THQ Nordic announced that they picked up those IPs. Now, what they haven't said, Jason, is what they're going to do with them.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see. Pull up the exact thing here. Yeah, it does say that, yes, in addition, it covered the acquisition of the Amalur, which whatever, based on the abandoned MMORPG project Copernicus, which, yes, was their MMO that they were working on, that they said was going to be free to play, or Kurt Schilling said that a while later. It was going to be their big thing, free to play, AAA.
Yeah, we're not gonna rehash the whole Rhode Island 38 Studios closing. We've done that before. They were bought. So
yeah, that's what a lot of people are going to be really interested in, because as you said, the game was kind of generic, despite the big names they had. R.A. Salvatore and Todd McFarlane. It didn't really strike a big chord with anyone. I watched people play it. It was a fantasy world that had magic. I think it had elves. I played a little bit of the demo. So yeah, it's like, and it was even up for sale. It was even, the IP was auctioned off
and didn't sell
in late 2013. It didn't sell. So at the very least, you have to figure THQ might have actually paid 10 cents for this, going with the old 10 cent thing, because this had to be like rock bottom cheap, which makes you wonder, are they really going to do something with it? Maybe they just saw it and were like, maybe some old person who was working at 38 is with THQ and said, we can get this for like 10 grand. Let's go pick it up. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe they're just going to hold on to it, look into it, kick the tires a little bit. I would say don't expect anything really soon on this.
No.
At the very least, a couple of years, 2-3 years at the very least, before we get anything on it. So don't get your hopes way up if you were a big fan of what was shown or what little bit was talked about.
I would be interested, Q, in seeing Project Copernicus come to life as an MMORPG, but even I, the eternal optimist, have to go, that's just not going to happen. I can't see a way that happens. Q, do you?
As an MMO, no.
Yeah. Right. Especially the way Schilling described it, Jason. AAA, $100 million plus free-to-play microtransaction-based MMO. I'm going to go ahead and go with a big negative.
Probably not. Again, though, if we are talking in a 3 to 4 year time frame, maybe everything will switch again. 3 or 4 years ago, we would have thought this was a possibility, and now it's not. Now maybe it will be.
I kind of don't think
Look,
so.
I'm rocking my landmark shirt here, man. Give me a little.
You poor landmark.
Man, I spent $100 and I didn't even get that shirt. I got nothing to show for that one. All right, we are going to be skipping the Space Lord's first look, so go watch it. Have fun. Before we go, though, I do want to talk about one last topic, because we never talk about this, and all of a sudden, bam, bam, there was news on this one, too. Lord of the Rings, and not Lord of the Rings Online, the Warner Brothers Turbine insert company here, Standing Stone Games, right. Yeah, insert company names here. There is going to be a new free-to-play Lord of the Rings Online game. We don't know what yet. We don't know if it's MMORPG, a multiplayer thing. We don't know. It's being developed by Athlon Games. That was a company created by Leyu Technologies. That's the team that owns Digital Extremes and Warframe, and also Splash Damage, who makes Dirty Bomb. You got your family trees all together, free-to-play gang? All right. Now, what they do is they develop and globally publish free-to-play games for PC, Mac, and consoles. And on the About Us page, this went up. Athlon Games is partnering with Middle-earth Enterprises to develop and publish a free-to-play, massively multiplayer online video game based on The Lord of the Rings, the landmark fantasy literary work of J.R.R. Tolkien, set in the world of Middle-earth during the years leading to the events of The Lord of the Rings. So are we talking Hobbit, or are we talking even pre that? I don't know. The game will provide Middle-earth fans throughout the world with a new immersive game experience for epic exploration of the Tolkien universe. I'm stupidly excited for this, Jason.
Yeah, me too, probably.
We finally got one! We finally got one!
Since we were just talking behind the scenes last week about how much ticked off with itemization in Lord of the Rings and the loot boxes, or whatever, Lord of the Rings Online, the loot boxes, I'm like, oh, a new one. Ooh. Yeah, I would definitely like to be interested in this, depending on what kind of game it is, which we are kind of like, eh?
I mean, they do say massively multiplayer online video game. They do say expansive world, immersive gameplay experience, epic exploration. I don't see any way this isn't an MMORPG, Q.
I do.
No, don't.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you first, Q, and then I want to hear what your opinion is, Jason.
It's like, wait, is he going to try to say it's some sort of battle royale?
Oh God!
The Lord of the Rings battle royale.
Oh,
Although I do like the phrase that Jason gave that in the article, because we're going to talk about the card game in a second. It is not that. That is a totally separate thing. But Jason speculated that maybe like a looter shooter in the vein of Destiny. I don't think that satisfies epic exploration in any way, shape, or form, even like to the scale of Destiny. I don't feel epically exploring in Destiny. But so I like that because you have to use swords instead of guns, that Jason coined the term grabber stabber instead of a looter shooter.
We're sticking with that. That's what we're using from now on.
We are totally using grabber.
That just sounds very inappropriate.
Well, maybe.
Also, you threw out a hero shooter, battle royale, but those two seemed a little less likely for you. So is that where you think this is going, Jason? Is that more like Division 2 in a Tolkien setting?
I am thinking it'll be more along those lines. If you're clinging to the word epic exploration, don't. They'll say it's an epic experience. It's a wonderful, huge, whatever. Yeah, whatever. They'll say whatever they want. I think it's going to be a little more contained than that. Like you were saying earlier, the days of the big MMORPGs are kind of not so great.
Right, but I also preface that with unknown IPs. This is clearly not an unknown IP.
I agree, but I still think it's a big risk. I think they would. I think it's going to be a little.
This lends itself to a Destiny or whatever style. Like, it's freaking Lord of the Rings. There's only one thing you do in Lord of the Rings: you adventure. You go places.
You mean like the card you could do in the card game and the MOBA?
Card games are a little weird.
You do have to click a travel button in that, so
yeah. See, that's the thing. I think you could have little instance things, or even sort of like Warframe. Kind of a linked set of instances, like they have their planets. This could
please,
be,
no.
Here's the mortar set, and here's the
Jason, shut up.
The whatever set.
No.
The Mirkwood areas. Yeah, no. I think that's more along the lines of what it's going to be. It's a grabber stabber.
Yeah, it's a grabber stabber. Q and I are holding out hope for an MMORPG, and a good one. On that note, though, I mean, don't expect again to see anything on this for a while, I would assume.
Oh, it should also be noted too that the Lord of the Rings Online.
That's where I was going next. That's where I was going next. Yeah,
okay.
The Lord of the Rings Online community manager. Is it Cordovan or Cordovan?
I don't know.
I don't know. Did weigh in briefly on actual Lord of the Rings Online forums about this announcement, stating that the news will not have any impact on our development plans or licensing. We always welcome competition and wish them the best of luck, which I thought was a really snarky fuck you.
I mean,
we always welcome competition. What a dick thing to say. The game is...
Isn't it weird when the competition is the same IP as you?
Yeah. And if you don't think that's going to have an impact on licensing at some point,
the one making the most money is the
go
one that
ask
sticks around?
SOE and BioWare. Go ask those two companies. Of course it will. It might not right now, but of course it's going to at some point. I'll be watching this one, and it's nice to see Jason actually excited about something. If, in the meantime, you want to get your Lord of the Rings fix, Fantasy Flight is releasing into early access. It's available now. You got to buy a Founders Pack, but it will be free to play when it actually launches. For now, though, got to shell out the dollars. Lord of the Rings, the living card game, been out for a while now at your local game store. That's now in early access on Steam, so if you want to play the PC version of it, go for it. Published by Asmodee Digital. I've played it a little bit yesterday. Full disclosure, I have not played the living card game, although I have passed it on the shelf many times, and that in Game of Thrones. I haven't pulled the trigger on a purchase of either of those. I'm not sure how I feel about living card games myself. I'm an older guy, so I still tend to the loot boxy, booster packy, collectible games rather than living ones, but I certainly see the benefit and the appeal of a living card game where there's no random. You just go buy what the hell you want. I only really played the tutorial, which isn't finished and is going to be streamlined and stuff. I don't know how I feel about it yet, so I'm not going to give any opinion. I'm lukewarm at the moment. Do either of you have experience with the tabletop version of this game?
Nope.
No. This
Okay.
I am less excited about this.
Yeah, I'm not like overtly happy about this one yet, but I'm still going to give it a chance. We have some time on doing a first look on this one because it's not going to be free to play for a while. So I'm going to give this one, a few hours before I decide on what I want to do with it. But if you play the tabletop game and you want an electronic version of it, there you go. I mean, you got it, and it's in partnership with Fantasy Flight. So how could it be wrong? We are skipping the first look video and going straight to the weekly bombs.
Sorry, Troy.
Sorry, Troy. My bomb is a dub bomb to Wizard 101's 10th birthday. Happy birthday. Oh, and welcome to Steam. Go ahead, Jason.
Actually, we were talking about this a little earlier with the skeletons in China. That was actually something they had an issue with, too.
Yeah.
When they ported their game over.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm just amazed by all these titles that are like a decade or more older, all of a sudden. Runes of Magic and...
We're 2 decades from Meridian 59.
Meridian 59. It's like all of a sudden showing up on Steam.
Steam!
I'm going to give, because we just talked about it earlier, I'm going to give an old school A-bomb to 38 Studios and Kurt Schilling. For back when the game did shut down, or the company did shut down back in May of 2012, because we were following this.
Yeah.
This was like half our news stories on Game Breaker that month for that second half. So I was following this day after day. As you recall, the governor of Rhode Island, Lincoln Chafee, came on and he said he got a press conference that said, the game failed. They were talking about Reckoning, talking about why they were shutting down because the game failed. It did poorly, whatever. 2 days later was when the actual company shut down. 2 or 3 days later, and Kurt Schilling goes right out there and says, this is why we're having to shut down, because the governor said bad things about us, so we couldn't get a good deal. They were trying to get sold or secure funding or whatever.
Yeah.
We couldn't get a good deal because of what the governor said. They had 6 years of that company being in existence to find a deal, to find funding. Various companies that got on record and saying, or representatives that said, yeah, we looked at them, we decided not to. You did not try for 6 years to find funding and fail. And then the governor gets on and says a few bad words about you for 2 days, and that's why you failed. That is not what happened. That is the biggest load of whatever.
Womp womp.
No, just no.
Q.
No.
So I was going to give an A-bomb to myself for forgetting what I wanted my bomb to be that I thought of yesterday, but I remembered it.
All right, go for it.
It's an A-bomb to Valve for their whole was it the
Artifact?
Yeah, the whole artifact, like not necessarily what we were talking about, but I was reading some of the stuff on Twitter, and apparently Valve still thinks that you can just let communities manage themselves and they totally won't be toxic, and people won't say mean things if nobody's watching them to say if they're saying mean things. Like, are these people raising children?
Does anybody at Valve play an online game, I wonder?
I'm just like they're seriously sitting there going, no, we're not going to worry about it, because if it's just you and one other person, then there's no reason for someone to say mean things to you. Like, I don't understand this logic. Do they literally just think that people will handle themselves?
They are doing a great job on Artifact if this was still like 1994.
I was amazed. Like, you brought it up, and it was the first time we'd talked about it at all in Skype chat, and I was like, wait, that hasn't been canceled yet? I'm just stunned that is still going to be a thing. From the viewers, Gesley says, hello, I have a question. If Bless, the Xbox game, is going to be free to play, are you really going to try it out and make a first look? Yes, of course we will. I'll have to whip out the Elgato capture card to do it. Most games have a PC and console version, so I just default to PC, but this will be console only, at least initially. So yes, I'll do some capture and do a first look. I just want to know how much that game will be different than Bless on the PC. It's not hard to imagine or believe that assets, the world map itself, locations, animations, sounds, etc. is not used in that game. If you simply make a new game, changing skills, story, and stuff, then they probably will be Bless Unchained for PS4 and for Switch, Bless Labo, and each will have dedicated four-man dev team. Of course, that's sarcasm, but I feel like that's another reason the PC game has suffered. By the way, about that dub-bombs, don't you have that yellow fan-made image screen with the types of bombs? And Troy was too loud on this video. Thanks for your work. With love and respect, Gesley. Gesley, thank you for the feedback. Troy was a little loud. That was not on our side. That's why I didn't hear it, and his images, his stuff looked fine. He was fine for Jason and I when we were doing the show, but on the playback, I did realize that it was recording louder than Jason or I were hearing it. We will have Troy turn his gain down a little bit on the next show. Somebody else commented on that and said, hey, monitor your levels. Q and Jason, because they're on one call, are on the same level. I can't independently... Yeah, same thing with Troy and Jason when they were on the call. So we'll have him turn his gain down. But yeah, from what I've seen, though, I mean, they did some stuff at PAX, Jason. This does look substantially different than Bless Online. It is much more action-based. It is it's much more beautiful graphically, and that just makes sense. It's Unreal 4 versus Unreal 3. Yeah. The combat and, MMORPG, they got their hands on it. They did a little write-up, and they were like, we were actually impressed with, the combat, the combos nicely. So we'll have to see. I don't know how different it'll be, but initial impressions are that it is quite a bit different at this point.
Did they know what kind of game it is? Is it like a Monster Hunter type thing?
They got to do, when I read MMORPG's article, they got to do like one quest. So they really didn't get a feel for what the game itself was. They just went on like one little adventure to go kill some things and see how the combos went and how the user interface guides you to those combos. Sure. And I think they played whatever it's called, the Guardian, the Berserker, the big tanky one. So it seems like there's class similarity between Bless Online and Bless Unleashed. Go ahead, Jason.
D. Drake Han says, looks like PlanetSide 2 is developing a new continent.
And now, I
mean, we reported on that, but are we sure? Are we sure Daybreak is going to
So no.
Go ahead, Q.
Chris, card games. I used to play card games in the 80s when I was a kid with real cards.
When he was a kid, he was in the casino smoking cigarettes and playing five-man stud or whatever.
When I was a kid in the 80s, I would actually go hang out in casinos, but my mom worked there.
Actually, we did play poker for lunch for a while, and I was like in 6th grade or something. I remember that.
Yeah.
The oldest I ever became in the 80s was 8, so I really wasn't playing card games. I did do card games in the late 90s. And now I've kind of fallen back into it with Magic the Gathering and, more importantly, Final Fantasy trading card games.
But did you play generic card games? Did you play like Crazy Eights or something with your parents or something like that when you were
I'm sure
8?
I did, but that's not what Cress is talking about. Cress is talking about like Magic the Gathering and stuff.
Not in the
80s, that's what from the last show. Magic the Gathering was what, 94?
93.
93?
With real cards. That's what he means there. With real cards. Ace of Spades, that kind of stuff.
Shut up. Nintendo says, "Da-bomb really is old slang." Yeah, it is. The fact that I know you are da-bomb stuff makes me feel old and depressed.
Welcome to the club.
Us too. In Magic Arena, you can set the game to manual mode, which means you and not the computer will finish turns picking mana as usual. The match speed will increase the higher you get. I had matches range from 10 minutes to an hour. So thank you for that, Jason.
Yeah,
and
I knew that was in there somewhere.
Yeah, it had to have been. We both were like, "There's no way that you can't shut this off. Dub-bomb to gamers around the world for finally speaking with their wallets. EA is feeling that in theirs. A-bomb to myself. I'm bored to death here. I almost lost my will to live on the British heavy tank tree in World of Tanks, which I thought was the worst that could ever happen to me. Oh boy, that tree is a cakewalk compared to the French heavy line. But I pulled through and lost myself. I am a person that if I get angry, I hit things. I once almost broke my finger by punching a wall because I hit my toe on a door.
What?
I'm sorry, Nintendo, but that is funny. You stub your toe on a door and get so mad you punch a wall and injure your finger. Anyways, the French tree made me go insane. I should give my second monitor, which is a 2003 4x3 TFT, a dub bomb for surviving that madness. You should give it a dub bomb for still working. Go ahead, Jason.
Man. Cappy says the recent news from PAX of Bless Unleashed says that the game is not tab targeted, and some footage, even though it was from mobile, looks far better than the Steam version, combat and optimization, which is good for console players, not so good for the PC players, as it is looking even more inferior than comparable games this day and age. I guess you guys are going to make a follow-up anyway with the PAX info.
Yeah, we weren't at PAX, so we didn't cover it, but Cappy, I'd seen the same thing. So thank you for throwing it out there on YouTube for any viewers. Go ahead, Q.
VT3611 about the headphones from Amazon. If it said fulfilled from Amazon warehouse, then it was probably damaged by an employee and they simply sent it out anyway. You could probably get a replacement from Amazon customer service if you contact them. What is this about?
So Troy, on last week's episode, Troy's weekly bomb was he had ordered some earbuds off of Amazon, and they didn't work or something like that. So he shipped them back, and they sent him another one. And when he opened the new one up, and he took the bubble wrap off and everything, the only thing in there was the cardboard that the blister pack would have been glued to with the earbuds in it. It was just the cardboard backing that with the blister pack and the earbuds totally ripped off and gone. So it was just the back of the packaging that he was sent. It was fantastic. Frame Rate Productions, which, by the way, I love the name of that YouTube channel. Nice job on that one. Release the tapes, Mike. We want to see you play another game while waiting for a match to start. I still have that footage of me actually not just playing Quake, but downloading, installing, and then playing Quake while waiting for a match in Skyforge Battle Royale. I was
actually worried about that when I did my Battle Right first look. I was like, crap, this is going to be something that's going to Battle Right Royale. How long is it going to take? It was like a minute queue, so it was fine.
Awesome. Question of the week last week, loot box changes keep coming overseas, with Blizz now having to remove them from Heroes of the Storm and Overwatch in Belgium, warning type labels coming, but our question was, how do you really warning label a free-to-play game, and do you even do it at all? Guestly also had feedback on this, saying, how do you label a free-to-play game? With big red letters, in-game purchases, an empty wallet, and sad crying faces as images. But for real, do people officially label pay-to-play, buy-to-play? Mostly ratings are for age, drugs, mature content, in-game purchases, etc. No need to label that stuff, otherwise Dev will have another problem if they decide to go buy-to-play, stares at the dead body of Lawbreakers. Things I don't like, I can't point out in exact games, but I have seen free to download and similar titles which can lead to misunderstandings for customers and think it's free to play. In that case, yeah, you need to label it somehow. Jason.
Well, that's why you would have some sort of body that says these are the words you put in there. You put in free to play, or you put in has loot boxes or whatever. So.
Right. I think our question was more, this very makes sense. It very much makes sense for a box copy on a shelf to have a sticker that says
sure.
In-app purchases, not recommended for addictive personalities. Whatever the hell you want the label to say. It makes sense for that, but it really doesn't for a free-to-play download. Where's the sticker go? And
I mean, on Steam, they do have on the side of a game. It's like with the stuff that's in it. So, it does exist.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly easy to... But the other point is, okay, so like saying games are labeled for mature audiences, for this, that, and the other. How many people actually pay attention to those? Because there were literally people a week ago saying, hey, they should label video games that are violent. So... I mean,
Wasn't that just one particular person who was saying that?
well, I've been in video game stores where parents will walk in and buy like a mature game for their 12-year-old kid. And the guy at the store will say, hey, this is labeled M for, and they're like, whatever, I don't care. Timmy wants it, I'm buying it. So people don't know or don't care that those labels are there.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. People aren't really going out of their way to make them visible either. And I'm going to give you an example here. Like, you have to be looking for it. So here's Lord of the Rings Online. Let me just move my XSplit window there. So this is their website, right? So, okay, oh, great, free-to-play game here.
It's at the bottom, probably.
All the way at the bottom, and to be honest, it ain't even that big as far as being able to see it. So, you know, you're not going to get developers or anything that are going to put it, you know, right at the top of the web page or things like that. So it's kind of an iffy topic on where these would go. Jason, go ahead, read the next one.
Nintendo says, question of the week, I don't really think that free-to-play really needs a warning label, but if it would require one, it should warn a player about the potential costs in form of in-game shops. I more often see people complain about those the most, and if you believe it or not, some are even surprised those exist. And hell, we first need to get some decent free-to-play games for those labels to become a thing. All we have, the typical crowded MMOs like WoW and Final Fantasy. On the other side, we got half-dead ghost town simulators. Okay, Nintendo, first of all, I want to say you putting random capital words in there is screwing me up way to hell. Please, man. The majority of free-to-play MMOs do not have the single-player income or player base that would find such a label necessary. Seriously, you capitalize necessary. What are you doing, man?
It only capitalized majority. Maybe it's it for emphasis.
Finish it up, Q.
Although, I really want to see somebody make a ghost town simulator now.
Yeah, right?
Like
it's called Wildstar.
Like an actual Western ghost town simulator. Maybe with actual ghosts. Squeezy. From a personal standpoint, I can only think of a single warning. Warning, you will spend more money on insert free-to-play name than any other game that you will pay for. That's not necessarily true.
I'm about to say.
When I was playing Ether Saga and I was spending money on it, and I'd spend like $10 here, not spend something for a while, $50 there, I totaled it up at the end of the year, and I spent a subscription price. Literally, I basically spent $15 a month instead of just, you know, paying out $15 every month. It was just when I could spend the money rather than, you know, when they demanded I spend it. Yeah, exactly.
Question of the week this week, what does the Pearl Abyss purchase of CCP mean for the future of the company and its products? Is it a good thing for EVE fans or new product fans? Is it a bad thing? Maybe you don't care about CCP. What about the other buyouts we spoke about? Am I crazy thinking Daybreak could be bought out soon? What about some of the other purchases we've talked about here with THQ picking up the 38 Studios stuff? There's a lot of buyout stuff. I want to know your opinion. Put it in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget your weekly bombs. D-bomb for something great. A-bomb for something awful. For anything. Put it in there. And if you have questions for the panel, put them down there as well. We'll be sure to ask them on next week's show. Until then, Q, where can everybody find you?
Hanging out on Twitter at Quinlan and on Mixer at Miscreation-Q.
Mr. Winter.
Find me on Twitter at WinterInformal, streaming twitch.tv/JasonWinter.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally right there on Twitter at MagicMan1. But more importantly, while you're there, follow at MMOBomb so you get tweeted all the news stories as they come out, the first looks, interviews, giveaways, and so much more. Until next time, gang, stay safe. We'll see you on the servers.